Let us begin the program then. Thank you very much for coming. On behalf of the Asian Center, the Department of Political Science, the Department of English and Comparative Literature, and the Third World Studies Center, I welcome you to this afternoon session, the Age of Globalization, moderator, Age of Globalization. We will be starting with opening remarks by the Dean of the Asian Center, Eduardo Gonzalez. So we call Dean.
Neither Karl Marx nor Adam Smith used the word, but globalization was a key theme in the Communist Manifesto and the Wealth of Nations. Here is Marx's description of the global reach of capitalism. The need of a constantly expanding market for its products chases the bourgeoisie over the whole surface of the globe. It must nestle everywhere, settle everywhere, establish connections everywhere. The bourgeoisie, by the rapid improvement of all instruments of production, by the immensely facilitated means of production, draws all, even the most backward nations, into civilization. It compels all nations, on pain of extinction, to adopt the bourgeoisie mode of production. It compels them to introduce what they call civilization into their midst, to become bourgeoisie themselves. In one word, it creates a world in its own image. Adam Smith's description of economic development has as its essential principle the integration of markets over time. As the division of labor enables output to expand, the search for specialization expands trade and gradually brings communities from disparate parts of the world together. There is little disagreement among these two great economic thinkers about the importance of the globalizing process. Both called for global integration, although with different methods, revolution of trade, and with different ends, socialism or capitalism. Curiously, Marx and Smith, as globalists, would have put them only at the margins of a necessary condition of imagined communities of a more recent kind, nationalism. The point that I think Benedict Anderson would underscore today is that nationalism and internationalism, or Gemeinschaft and globalization, go together. Ben, as we kindly call him, uses our own Jose Rizal, Mariano Ponce, and Isabel de los Reyes, among others, as a springboard for demonstrating the globalization of anti-colonial nationalism. The sense of belonging to a bounded place, even under the pain of exile, which Rizal and the others suffered, is simply one moment in a multifaceted drive to understand the world and create a new world system. In the 19th century, that new creation was the nation, the byproduct of nationalism, first generated by the Creole elites in the New World, and then pirated by the privileged strata of Europe when its nation-building era came to pass. Ben describes this phenomenon as a long-distance nationalism, made possible by the progress of transport and communication, when revolutionaries, some of them steered up by anarchist thinking, formed an imagined community of fellow travelers whose aim was to give birth to a new system. On this note, let me welcome all of you to this public lecture on the Age of Globalization, Anarchism, and the Anticolonial Imagination, previously known as Under Three Flags. The Asian Center takes pride in having Professor Anderson for the second time in celebration of our 59th anniversary. In his first appearance here at the GT Toyota Auditorium on March 11th last year, 5 professors engaged Ben in a wide-ranging conversation at a talk show that covered themes focused on Southeast Asia. Today, Ben will be all by himself to tell us rather amazing stories about how thinkers and freedom fighters around the world found a common aspiration for independence that somehow bound them together despite not knowing each other. Thank you, and again, welcome.
Thank you, Dean Gonzalez. We are all familiar, I suppose, with Professor Anderson, but to give a more formal introduction, I'd like to call on Professor Benedict Anderson to give a backgrounder introduction to this speaker.
I don't know how formal I can be introducing Ben Anderson, but here goes. Benedict Richard O'Gorman Anderson was born in 1936 in Kunming, China, to an Anglo-Irish father and an English mother. The family descended from the Anderson family of Ardbrake, Portrickley, Scotland, who settled in Ireland in the early 1700s. Ben's father, James Carroll O'Gorman Anderson, was an official with the Chinese Maritime Customs, assigned to collect taxes and run after opium dealers. James Anderson was actually born in Penang, now in Malaysia, whose father, Ben's grandfather that is, was one of the first British colonial officials who built the city's big water reservoir, which still stands, and a modern harbor. He also built a nice Irish family house on top of Penang Hill, which still exists. Ben's grandmother, Lady Frances Anderson, was the daughter of a well-known Irish member of Parliament. Ben's great-grandfather, Nicholas Purcell O'Gorman, had been involved with the bloody 1798 Irish uprising against English rule. Ben takes his middle names from another ancestor, Richard O'Gorman, who was one of the leaders of the Young Islander Rebellion of 1848, part of the 1848 series of revolutions all over Europe that Karl Marx wrote about. His equally distinguished younger brother, Perry Anderson, is a noted historian and political theorist who was editor of the iconic Marxist New Left Review from 1962 to 1982. Anderson was brought up mainly in California, and after moving to Ireland, went to Eton College and then to Cambridge, studying briefly under Eric Hobsbawm and graduating with a first-class degree in classics in 1957. He moved to Cornell University in 1958 to pursue a PhD research on Indonesian politics. Together with two other graduate students, he issued the famous Cornell paper, disputing the Suharto regime's sanitized version of the 1965 massacres of 500,000 Indonesians, for which he was barred from the country for the duration of the Suharto dictatorship. Anderson completed his PhD on the Bermuda Revolution, Indonesian politics, 1945 to 1946, in 1967, and taught in the Department of Government at Cornell University until he retired in 2002. He was director of Cornell's Southeast Asian Studies program from 1983 to 1989, and editor of the interdisciplinary journal Indonesia, 1966 to 1984. Among the Filipino scholars associated with or mentored at Cornell were familiar names like Joel Comora, Ray Mileto, Vince Rafael, June Aguilar, Jojo Binales, and Carol Lau. He is a great admirer of Jose Rizal, whom he fondly calls Lolo Jose, and who occupies special places in his writings. He has extended that fondness to other anti-colonial heroes, especially the anarchist socialist Isabel de los Reyes, whose folklore horror classic, El Diablo en Filipinas, he has translated into English, together with Pauline Guillermo and Carlos Sardina, and which is being launched by Amblin Publishing immediately after this forum, so stick around for that. He is best known for Imagined Communities, Reflections on the Origins and Spread of Nationalism, published in 1963, and has been translated into 34 languages. It is a path-breaking book that has supplied one of the most often quoted concepts in the academic world and popular literature. In it, he systematically describes trying to reconcile Marxist and nationalist theories, the major factors contributing to the emergence of nationalism in the world during the past 3 centuries. He was elected a Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 1994, received the Fukuoka Prize for Contributions to Asian Studies in 2000, and the American Social Science Research Council's Albert Hirschman Prize for cross-disciplinary contributions to the study of nationalism in 2011. Currently, he is Professor Emeritus of International Studies, Government, and Asian Studies at Cornell University. In a reply to a question from George Aseniero as to what attracted him to the Philippines, he replied, and I quote, "I think that living in America and having long experienced the katarataduhan of Washington and other places made me think I should really study the American colony. Why did the benighted backward Spanish colony produce Mabini, Rizal, Luna, Los Reyes, et al., and the progressive American one produced nothing comparable? Why was the U.S. established political system so lousy and yet so long-lasting? All the more so in that Indonesia and Thailand seem to be being Filipinized in their politics in the age of American domination. How could a country with so many gifted, so many nice people end up in such a mess?" I bring you Ben Anderson.